Greetings in the name of Christ and welcome to St. Philip Presbyterian Church's Wednesday Devotional. My name is Reverend Alissa Conner and I'm one of the pastors here at St. Philip. So I've been asked to speak about Mary Magdalene. Last week I asked if anyone had any specific women they would like for me to talk about, and one of our members called me and asked me specifically to talk about Mary Magdalene, so that's what I'm going to do. First, I'd like to read a passage for you. This is a passage from the book of Luke. Please listen as I read the word. Soon afterward, Jesus traveled through the cities and villages, preaching and proclaiming the good news of God's kingdom. The 12 were with him, along with some women who had been healed of evil spirits and sicknesses. Among them were Mary Magdalene, from whom 7 demons had been thrown out, Joanna, the wife of Herod's servant Chuza, Susan, and many others who provided for them out of their resources. So here you have in this passage from Luke chapter 8, you have the mention of Mary Magdalene. She's mentioned several other times, and in fact, she's present at Jesus's death and also witnesses the resurrection in some of the resurrection stories. So this is an important thing to note, that Mary Magdalene is not only mentioned here, but also in several places. When women specifically are mentioned by name, it is a sign that they were very important, because oftentimes they were just listed as a woman from, and then the location they were from, or an unnamed woman. So over time, stories have been told about Mary Magdalene, and in fact, oftentimes we hear her talked about as a prostitute. So the member that asked me to speak about Mary Magdalene specifically brought that up as a question. It's not listed in scripture that she's a prostitute, so where does that come from? First off, I want to say that even if she was a prostitute, that makes no difference to the fact that she was important to Jesus, that she helped Jesus's ministry, that she was a follower of Jesus, that she goes about and does great works and participates in being a disciple of Jesus. But I do want to say that actually in scripture, it never says that she was a prostitute. It says that Mary Magdalene was a woman of means, that she provided financially for Jesus. And it also talks about how she had 7 demons that were driven out of her. Now, sometimes people talk about Mary Magdalene as being the unnamed woman that happens the chapter before the passage that I read, the woman who washes Jesus's feet with her hair, and she's labeled as a sinner, but she's not named there. So it would be curious for her to be Mary Magdalene when in the very next chapter, Mary Magdalene is named and there's no connection drawn between the two of them. But even if they were the same person, the sins mentioned in the chapter before are not labeled. And so it's unclear as to what sins they were talking about. Regardless, I think it's important for us to think about, why do we identify women in the Bible specifically with the sins that we've attributed to them? We don't do so with most of the men in the Bible. Now, every once in a while you get one, but why is Mary Magdalene then associated with this idea that she's a prostitute, when really it's not listed in scripture? And really, even if she was, why not talk about her as a contributor to Christ, to Christ's mission, as a follower of Christ, as someone who was healed by Christ? Isn't that more important than what she did before? Well, one theory about why Mary Magdalene was listed or has been talked about as a prostitute is because she was a woman of means. And so then as time went by, and especially Western minds started looking into the scriptures, and they started thinking about, well, how would a woman have these financial resources? Well, at the time people were asking that question, there was a very obvious solution, and they couldn't think about women having resources in any other way but being a prostitute. Another reason that perhaps she was talked about as being a prostitute is because she was important. She was listed by name. She was a follower. She helped Jesus. She was there at his crucifixion. She's listed by name there. Also, the women who are talked about as seeing Jesus in the resurrection that the disciples don't believe, she's listed there by name. So, the first preacher of the gospel right there of the resurrection. So the fact that she was so very important made her very threatening to the idea that women shouldn't be that important in scripture. And so we get this idea that then she's downplayed. She is listed for the not great attributes that are attributed to her, as opposed to being listed for all of the things that she is actually talked about in scripture. So lots of interesting stuff about Mary Magdalene. I invite you to spend some time reading all about her. If you are still confused as to why we talk about Mary Magdalene as a prostitute, or if you're still confused about who she is, feel free to read more of her story. Read all the sections of scripture that talk about her. And I challenge you to find why we may have talked about her in this way. And also continue to ask questions about how we talk about women in the Bible and about how we talk about followers of Jesus, because certainly she was a follower of Jesus, a disciple of Jesus, and that is a wonderful thing. So I invite you to pray. Let us pray. Holy God, we give you thanks for Mary Magdalene, who helped Jesus with resources, who followed Jesus, who bared witness to Jesus's death and resurrection. We give you thanks for the ministry that she has shown us, for the opportunity that we have to be more like her. We give you thanks, oh God, for opportunities to be healed and to continue to grow in learning and knowledge. We ask that you continue to guide us, that our minds may be open to your word now and always. In your name we pray. Amen. So as we go forward, I've had one request to talk about Rebecca. If you have other women of the Bible that you'd like to hear more about, please feel free to respond in the comments or give me a call, just like the person who called me to talk about Mary Magdalene. Give me an email at alyssa@stphil.org. I'd be happy to explore some more women of the Bible. In fact, I'm so excited that we got the opportunity to talk about Mary Magdalene today and who she really was, a follower of Christ, someone who supported Christ's ministry, someone who witnessed his death and resurrection, someone who spoke the good news. As we go forward, may we talk about all of the women in scripture and really reflect about how they've been portrayed and what scripture really says about them. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a great week.